to Brighter Morning with Bo. My number is 609-6283, 609-6284. You are free to call. We were talking in the first hour with Dr. Valmiki Arjun. We talked about the global situation and what is happening with production systems, trade systems, logistical systems, shipping systems, and of course the investment climate and what that is doing to the structure of business organization and the distribution system in the world. And we concluded by saying that the only salvation for a country like Trinidad and Tobago is to produce more of what we consume and to export more of what we produce so that we can earn foreign exchange. And so we concluded that the question is how, and diversification is the necessity. And the question is, how do we create the conditions in this new world order that is emerging? While everybody talking about it, it's already happening. So in this new world order that is happening, we have no choice but to respond and to respond well. So I'm sorry about that, viewer. I was disrupted there by a phone call, and I am sorry. So we were talking about this logistical nightmare, and what is going to happen is that the prices of everything, including the price of production, which is the price of labor and other costs, is going to increase. What I want to move on to now is to talk about the local situation from the point of view of the ordinary consumer who goes into the market and goes into the supermarket to purchase food, which is the most basic thing. All of us get up in the morning and we might look after our personal sanitation when we get up and take a shower, and we are prepared for the day. Either we go to work or we go about our business or do whatever we have to. And at the end of the day, you have to find a way to eat. That means you have to earn income, and that means that the income has to give you enough ways and means of having purchasing power to put things on the table. And I want to talk a little bit this morning now to a person who would understand this very well, because that is his business. And he is Mr. Rajiv Diptee, a young man who is very, very active in the society, not only with supermarkets, but with other things. He played a major role in the vaccination drive recently. And we will talk with him now, Mr. Rajiv Diptee. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Dr. Tiwari. Thank you for having me on Brighter Mornings, and I hope I can make a positive contribution here this morning.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, we want to hear from you because you deal with all the other supermarkets in the country. You have your own supermarket system, and food is basic to everybody. So tell me from your point of view, but starting with the consumer point of view, that is to say your customer, tell me what's happening with that customer.
Well, I think throughout the period of COVID-19, we've seen a degree of frustration with the escalation of food prices. Make no mistake, there has been certainly a very adverse effect brought about by the pandemic. And it is something that has been ongoing since the peak of the lockdown, that being March 2020. And there have been various exigencies that have contributed to this situation. And it's important
Raj- Rajiv, make sure that your Wi-Fi is okay by you, and make sure that you are properly connected and not muted. And we're going to take a break now, and we'll come back in a minute. Okay?
Welcome to Lifetime Solutions, where you can trust your roof to us. Our services include custom fabrication, steel framing, roofing installation, on-site roll forming, roofing maintenance and services. Call 223-ROOF or 223-7663 for a quote today, or visit our website www.lifetimesolutionst.com. Lifetime Solutions. You can trust your roof to us. Call 223-ROOF or 223-7663 for a quote today, or visit our website www.lifetimesolutionstt.com.
As businesses adapt to the new normal, let Magic Mist take care of your cleaning and sanitization needs with our COVID-19 BSCAI internationally certified technicians. With over 43 years of protecting the health of our nation, you can trust us to ensure your building remains safe, healthy, and functional. Give us a call today at 638-6675 or 332-5522. Magic Mist Services Limited, your total facilities management solutions provider.
Do you want to know how to make money in the comfort of your home? Do you want to know the secret in finding love? Well, you can't get none of that here. Join me on MCTV on To Make Joke. New guests every week. I'm not promising that. Now take a look at what we have to offer.
Chicken curry, crab curry, shrimps curry.
Yeah, every week, new episode, MCTV.
Welcome back. You're watching Brighter Morning with Bo, and our guest this morning is Mr. Diptee of the Supermarkets Association. He's president of the association. His name is Rajiv Diptee. He's a graduate of the University of the West Indies. And more than that, he's a citizen very much alive and alert to what is happening around. So we are talking with him. We talked earlier this morning with Dr. Valmiki Arjun about what's happening globally, and now we want to talk about what's happening locally and to see where we can take this conversation in a positive light. Okay, Rajiv, you back on? Yeah.
Morning, Dr. Tibari. I hope you're hearing me very clearly.
Yeah, very clear now. Yes.
Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. So I would like to get back to what we were discussing, and I was making the point that when you come to the supermarket, you're coming to the very end of a long value chain, because the supermarkets themselves are not the importers of goods. We have local suppliers and distributors, as well as local manufacturers of goods. And, when we talk about what's happening internationally and what the pandemic has brought to bear on that long value chain, there's a great degree of frustration where the average consumer is concerned, because when they come into the stores and they see that the prices are incrementally increasing, sometimes monthly, and it's certainly a time where income has declined and revenues are down around all sectors, and this is something where the disposable income of customers is being eroded. There's certainly some kind of frustration where the core food basket is concerned. And I think this has been certainly as an island in the Caribbean Sea, we are very much vulnerable to those external shocks between major economic players. And we've seen what the container shipping crisis has done to that value chain where shipping, freight, and insurance is concerned. And, this is something that, painting the picture, people need to understand what has happened during COVID-19. We've seen almost a 500% increase in the cost of container shipping. And this is something that has been incredible. It has been unprecedented, and it has escalated the inflation of food worldwide, and that is something that remains a major concern. However,
let me stop you, Jay. I want to understand something. I want to help consumers to understand something. Now,
sure,
that shipping containers issue, that is something that really has to do with the wholesale suppliers and importers in the country, or does it have to do as well with the supermarkets directly? Or is it a combination of the two? Go ahead.
No, the supermarkets themselves are not importers of goods. And it's important to note that...
I wanted to make that clear, which is to say the importers of goods are the importers. That is to say, the distributors of goods to the supermarket. Is that correct?
Correct. That is a very correct assertion and accurate assertion that there are local importers, and these would be suppliers and distributors who buy goods to sell to the supermarkets. These would represent local companies. You've got a lot of them. You've got some international ones as well, like Nestle and Unilever. You've got some. You have a variety of local distributors that ship goods as the middleman from the companies in abroad in those territories from which we purchase the goods, and then they sell them to the supermarkets. Now, if they experience a price increase at the point of sale, then that will be passed on to the supermarkets, and that is usually passed on to the customers. And this is something that where we try to absorb the cost, the price increases. It's only so much that can be absorbed by stores and by distributors, and that is a situation where we see now that this price increase is taking place, and it's certainly something that we've seen everyone try to get creative with, especially where distributors are concerned, because you will reach a price point where the average consumer will say, listen, I can either continue to purchase this product or I will choose not to. And when we see that happening, then that is a situation where you may see products disappearing from shelves altogether, because we're in the business of fast-moving consumer goods. And if they're not moving, then they will not be put out. It's important to note that supermarkets will only continue to sell those products that consumers continue to purchase with frequency.
Yes.
Because
Okay. Go ahead.
No, that equation of demand and supply is something that you still see an appetite for, because even though we've seen so many of these price increases, you still see the customers continue to purchase the goods. Now, what we've done inside the stores is we've tried to make available in those varieties and quantities the core food basket of products, that being flour, oil, sugar, rice, etc., in those brands and SKUs and varieties that at least were for the vulnerable consumer. We're very cognizant of the fact that price increases have happened, and it's important to note that for those customers, we've tried our best to work with the suppliers of goods to ensure that there is something for everyone on the shelf. However, I mean, it is a challenging situation, but we are working on it.
How has that affected consumer behavior in your stores? Are people buying the basic items like flour, rice, oil, perhaps margarine, basic stuff that they need, plus whatever else they can put together in an affordable package? And has it come down now to a lot of people just basically buying what they need until they need more?
So, I think what you've seen during COVID-19 is the evolution of a very agile shopper. And this is something that, yes, people are buying the basics, but we're also seeing where you have customers who were perhaps brand loyal, and brand loyalty is something that has been diminishing in terms of price points, because now we see consumers working, reaching for those goods. They're always looking for substitutes products, that may be the price point that they're leaning towards, and we recognize that. So where container prices have gone, I think that we've seen some of our suppliers shopping around the globe, Latin America, as far as India, and they're looking for those goods that they can make, that they can ensure will move in terms of consumers. And yes, you're not seeing consumers come into the store during the month end period is always a busy period, and when people get paid, then you see them inside the stores. But there are some very, very lean periods in the supermarkets and in the stores, and certainly I think that we're very much looking forward to the reopening of the wider economy, because it means that the circulation of economic activity will ensure that people are earning, that people can come into the stores and shop. Certainly, the lockdown period and the period of restrictions since last year would have contributed, of course, to all of this. So it's something that we're trying our best with, but it's something that remains very much challenging times.
Okay, during the COVID lockdown period, though, supermarkets were basically given relief. That is to say, they were allowed to open, and supermarkets and drugstores were two of the few businesses that were really given an opportunity to serve the customer. What would you say that did for your business at that time? Given the other fallouts, because at that time also a lot of people weren't working anymore and they weren't in jobs. Go ahead.
Well, we have to recognize that it was at the peak of a health-related crisis, that COVID-19 is something that is life-threatening, and that worldwide supermarkets and drugstores were allowed to operate because these are the things that people need.
They are necessities, yes.
Yeah. This is something worldwide that we saw during all lockdowns, and I think even Russia had a lockdown recently, and they just said, listen, supermarkets and drugstores are the only places that are allowed to open. So it's a trend that we saw established very early on in the pandemic. It's not like how it was at the start of the pandemic. At the start of the pandemic, you would have had things like panic buying and all of that. Those things faded really quickly, and we saw trends evolving where people just came in for the basics. Just shopping enough, and it was really things that they looked for that could last. During those panic buying periods, it was canned foods and toilet paper. Now it's just it's not trolley loads of goods that they're leaving the store with. It's baskets, and it's very much based on what they're earning. And I think that the average consumer is just shopping for the week, for a fortnight, and it's something that we've seen. That's very challenging for our customers. We have a lot of supermarkets in Trinidad and Tobago, and it must be said that the sector is very competitive. There are lots of supermarkets vying for your wallet and vying for your disposable income. So from that competitive point of view, it's really good for the customer, because the sector itself is one that, being so competitive, it lends to a lot of deals and specials being put out by all these competing supermarkets, and that's only good for the consumer. So we're still seeing a very vibrant environment, unlike the rest of the region and Latin America, where we have all these deals and specials in the interest of the consumer. So I think it's still a good space for the customer to be in, and I think that when we head into Christmas as well, it's going to be just as vibrant, because we're seeing a lot of activity from my membership, in particular, where we see that Christmas specials, the hams, the chocolates, the wafers, the sparkling wines and beverages, these are things that are going to be coming to the fore, because we're really trying to make it as much of a Trini Christmas as possible. And I think that at the end of the day, the customer is really the big winner in this picture.
Welcome to Lifetime Solutions, where you can trust your roof to us. Our services include custom fabrication, steel framing, roofing installation, on-site roll forming, roofing maintenance and services. Call 223-ROOF or 223-7663 for a quote today, or visit our website www.lifetimesolutionstt.com. Lifetime Solutions. You can trust your roof to us. Call 223-ROOF or 223-7663 for a quote today, or visit our website www.lifetimesolutionstt.com.
Welcome back. Rajiv, I'm sorry. What happened is that the battery for my microphone went dead, so I had to, I just cut off. So my apologies for that. But I was saying that the pattern of imports is changing. And does that mean that we are getting more generic products or more or products now from what you might call from different markets that are price competitive? Is that what we're getting now? While we get some of the basic products we've always had?
So I've heard, Dr. Tiwari, a lot of people have asked me recently to be shortages in the sector where we see certain core staples. And this is something that has been repeated very often since the start of COVID-19. That's why there was this surge in panic buying and rush at the supermarkets. I could certainly say we don't expect any shortages in any of our core staples. Certainly, as you pointed out, we might see some generics replacing those products, because we're seeing spikes in consumption worldwide by leading countries, leading to demand has increased. Now, that will create a situation you might see some product replacement in terms of some goods that come into the country. However, we feel confident enough from conversations with our importers and suppliers that there is enough import cover, that there is certainly enough wiggle room with some of the brands that we work with, and that is something to go away anytime soon. And as I was making the point, the sector is very competitive, and this leads to a lot of deals and specials in the best interest of the customers. So they will be the big winners when when we see that the sector is able to compete for each one of these customers' disposable income. So this is something we look forward to. I don't feel like we will see. I mean, people have been expecting shortages and brands to disappear from the shelves. It's something that we've seen in some of the leading countries. However, it's not a situation that we are anticipating here, while we still have concerns about some of the delays in shipping.
Tell me something. What about local production and the supermarket system? I was just talking to Dr. Valmiki Arjun, and we concluded by saying, I mean, in this kind of situation, given what's happening all over the world, one thing is necessary for Trinidad and Tobago. We have to produce more of what we consume. and we have to export more of what we produce. And we have to diversify to make the products that we sell here and the products that we sell abroad much more significant in terms of range. Now, are we seeing increased production and a connection with supermarkets, for instance, locally? What's happening? All right, talk to him on the phone now. Call him and talk to him. All right. Okay, we'll take a break again and we'll come back in a minute.
As businesses adapt to the new normal, let Magic Mist take care of your cleaning and sanitization needs with our COVID-19 BSCAI internationally certified technicians. With over 43 years of protecting the health of our nation, you can trust us to ensure your building remains safe, healthy, and functional. Give us a call today at 638-6675 or 332-5522. Magic Mist Services Limited, your total facilities management solutions provider.
Learn all about agriculture. Green Corner with Akanath Singh. Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1:30 p.m. Green Corner with Akanath Singh.
Welcome back to Brighter Morning with Books. Thanks for staying with us. We had a little technical difficulty here, but we have Rajiv Diptee, President of the Supermarkets Association.
Right.
Yeah, Rajiv, you got cut off.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Yes, Dr. Tiwari. So I was saying that we fully support local producers of goods, and we try to fit them into the supermarkets as much as possible. I want to say too that where we found it a little bit challenging because we're always trying to put the best prices out for the customers. And in some instances, we find that this is best served by the imported goods, which fetch cheaper price points. Now something that we've noted that the inputs for local production is something that, if not scaled properly, becomes more expensive and leads to higher prices for the customers. Certainly, we support growing more of what we produce, and I've always made the point that as long as we're not making it, as long as we're not growing it, as long as we're not manufacturing it, we're always going to be price sensitive to world market prices. So certainly, we have an appetite for those enterprises that see import substitution strategies come to the fore, and also to that can be potential sources of a net position for foreign exchange, because access to foreign exchange remains one of the leading challenges. We haven't even spoken about that, and far less the supply. So it's something that we continue to consider when we talk to our distributors and suppliers. And we've also tried to work with local bodies like NAMDEVCO to identify those reliable, consistent, and qualitative sources of produce as well. So it's not that we look toward the local market, and we see that there are opportunities for import substitution created by the pandemic, because there are niche market opportunities for local producers to get into a competitive space. The onus is on the domestic side for persons to become competitive there. So I think there certainly exists an opportunity, Dr. Tiwari.
Okay, and that also links to the local manufacturing production system here in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes, correct.
I want people to understand that, there are some people who knock retail businesses, say they don't contribute anything to the production process. First of all, that is not true. Secondly, they employ large numbers of people. And thirdly, they keep the money flowing. But more significantly than that, the retail system is really what allows access to products and services and the distribution system to function. So I just wanted to underscore that. But you raised the issue of foreign exchange. Let's deal with that frontally. Does that affect directly the supermarkets, or does it affect the importers of products who sell to the supermarkets?
It affects the importers of goods because they are the ones that require the foreign exchange. And it remains an issue because the foreign exchange is limited locally at the vendors, with that those being the commercial banks. And I think we've acknowledged that there has been a parallel trade for those goods. What we've heard and seen throughout COVID-19 is our suppliers that are telling us that, listen, those partners that they do business with via their traditional routes of supply chains are asking for payments upfront in terms of foreign exchange. Now, this is something that I believe Exim Bank was the facility put in place by the government to try to secure certain supply chain routes. But there is a real exogenous strain on suppliers, and what this does in relations to the supermarkets is create a strain because they're looking for foreign exchange up front. So there are tighter cycles of payment to facilitate this just-in-time model. And this puts a strain on the cash flow of both the suppliers, the importers of goods, and the local retailers, because they're looking to turn over as quickly as possible to purchase the foreign exchange.
Yeah, and the other thing too is that supermarket systems like yourself, you operate on fast turnover and volumes and low margins. What kind of, on average, what kind of margins you would say in any given day of trade, of customers coming into your supermarket from the time you open until you kind of close? What kind of margins are you talking about on average on any given day?
When you go to the supermarket, I think it's important for the customer to understand that when you go to the supermarket, there are thousands of items literally on the shelves and in the inventory system. And the margins on these things are very small to the retailer. And when you consider, as you made the point that it's all about volumes, when you consider that we as the supermarkets, we have a margin that is put in place to cover the cost of operation. There are light bills to pay. There are workers, lane workers, cashiers, security. There's the cost of operation to consider. And a lot of people don't take these things into consideration, that the cost of operation is something that is particularly high at the supermarkets, because we try to provide a comfortable, serene shopping experience for you in most of the leading supermarkets. So this is something that when they come to these stores and they see these thousands of items, the margins on each one of these to the retailer is something that is very small. It adds up when you do the groceries monthly and that kind of thing. But it's important to understand that the margin is no different from any business owner who is just looking to pay his bills and it's a model really that does not that is very it's very onerous to be in the supermarket business right now, because I could tell you alone, electricity is a huge cost, and these things are just about covered by the margins that are put in place. Every store is different, and people often wonder why the prices are very different from store to store. This is because every store has a different cost of operation based on the overheads that they are carrying and the services that they provide to the customer. Some stores may opt for more premium shopping experiences, while some shops provide a simpler model, and they might just carry the goods, but it might be a less premium experience. So it really boils down to where the customer wants to shop, because the customer has a lot of opportunities to shop around, and that is something that we have to acknowledge. I think we've said there are lots of supermarkets in Trinidad and Tobago all competing for the customer's wallet, and it's something that the customer is the onus is on them really to ensure that they get the best price. There are lots of strategies put in place by stores to try to get the money in your wallet, but you have to understand that you choose to spend the money at some of these stores. So you can't complain about the store when you make the choice.
Yeah. Okay, but I mean, let's deal with those margins which are relative. We're talking about 3 to 5%, or we're talking about more than that on average?
So I mean, the point that I made is that there are thousands of items when you go into the supermarket.
Yeah,
when you pick up lots
to item, but on average.
Yeah. So on average, when you pick up a basket of these items, yes, I would say that, you know, the margins are very different. It's something that you work out with each one of the suppliers, because there are also many suppliers in Trinidad and Tobago for goods, and that is something that you consider when they sell you the product. Yeah, they sell you the product at a price. You look at what the competition is putting it out at, and then you work out to see, based on your cost of operation, if you could do it better than the competition. So that is something that these are all strategies. It's a plethora of factors when you consider what the final price to the customer is and what you could put it out to the customers, because at the end of the day, we all have strategies to try to get the customers into the supermarkets for the product. So I would say it all works out. It's a very consumer-centric model, and it really redounds to the benefit of the customers in Trinidad and Tobago.
Now, the government recently reduced VAT on a set of basic goods, and I imagine that has brought the price down a little bit. We had a situation in Trinidad and Tobago where we had most goods really without VAT. VAT was restored at 12.5%, and now that has been reduced on basic goods. Has that made a difference to the consumer, given all the other problems that we have in terms of price taking at the counter when the customer goes there?
So I think, Dr. Tiwari, that it has provided some relief to the consumers at this time. When we measured it as of last week, Monday, when the VAT came off these 3,000 or so odd inventory items, it did mean that 12.5% was off these items, and that the customer could look forward to that level of savings. And we did measure it. It did work out at the point in time to a couple $100 less when we did the maths, because we have consumer affairs moving around in the field to measure the price relief to the customers. We also have to be cognizant of the fact that in this free market model, where the external shocks in terms of price increases happen because of the container crisis and the many other crises that we are experiencing worldwide. Because I think people need to understand there have been climate shocks that have culminated in fires and natural disasters. We've seen shortages in things that we would not expect to short. Just to give an example, because there were so many home deliveries during COVID-19, people may not be aware of this, but cardboard was shorting. PVC, the ingredients required to make polyethylene glycol for PVC, that was shorting. The microchip crisis, that's shorting too, and there are microchips and a lot of things required for delivery. So, we've had factors that have compounded each other to create a crisis that may lead to price increases if the world supply chain and the world value chain does not recalibrate itself in time. That is flat. That being said, however, we have seen a flattening out of container prices as of right now. We're still monitoring the situation, and we can only hope that it levels off, because believe it or not, there was actually a shortage in the material required to make containers, and people must be aware that there are finite containers coming out of China, So all these things put aside, these are things that my suppliers talk to me about and let me know, listen, this is the situation with what's happening. And it's not to say that we're also exasperated and pulling our hair out with the situation, because when we've tried to look around for product substitutes, we've looked around extra regionally within CARICOM and outside of CARICOM. We've looked as far as India. We've worked with the Indian High Commission as well. So it's not that we're not looking around. We are looking around because we know that we have to put out goods to the consumer to work with the market in Trinidad and Tobago. That's what we're cognizant about. We're really cognizant of the fact that, listen, this is what our consumer has to spend, so we have to put something out there for that person to be able to buy.
Yeah. When I walk through, I don't go to the supermarket often, but I do go from time to time. Right. And my own sense is that a significant number of products are much more expensive, though. And I do not think that is the fault of the supermarkets. I think it is the fact that they land here at a much higher price. So, for instance, when you get 3 bars of soap in a package for taking a shower or something like that, I think that has gone up by a good amount. I don't know what the price is now, but it probably has gone up. That package of 3 bars of soap probably gone up by about $3 more than it was before. And there are things like that in which you have fairly steep increases that can add up and make a difference to the customer. There is no way of dealing with that until the logistical crisis globally and the whole movement of trading goods subsides and begins to manage itself downwards. Do you think that it will go downwards, or you think we're going to have to live with these higher prices?
Well, I would first of all, I would say it would depend on what your brand loyalty of your soap is and your preference. But certainly there are options for the customers in terms of those things. Now, we have seen some shortages contribute to those price increases, and as I said, there has been a flattening out of container prices. However, it's a very vulnerable situation. What we've seen happening, just to give an example, the 2 major ports of entry in North America, Los Angeles and Long Beach, we've seen them run 24/7 models right now to try to facilitate the container embargo crisis that we're seeing with the offloading of goods and the exigencies that situation has presented. And I think that it's something that we're going to continue to see working its way into 2022, and that there will be a restoration and a recalibration of the world supply chain, because it's what you saw happening, Dr. Tiwari, and what's important for the nation is to understand is that as some of the world's leading countries came out of COVID-19, the supply chain snapped back. A lot of countries were in lockdown, just like Trinidad and Tobago, and post-vaccination, these countries did reopening in a major way, and there was major consumption and major demand. So the supply chain simply could not meet that, because we have to remember too that the output of production at factories worldwide was also cut to 50%, just like Trinidad and Tobago had to do 50% capacity in so many of our sectors. We have to be cognizant of the fact that this was something that was going on around the world. So we're still feeling the effects as that supply chain now is being recalibrated. So I think that it's a very fluid situation. It's a volatile situation. The volatility on our side is, of course, down to things like foreign exchange and the consumption patterns that still dictate what goods are put out on the shelf. Because just for example, if you're still buying the soap at $3 more, we're still going to put it out as long as you're buying it. So the point is that we try to put enough options in place for all the pockets and all the price points that consumers have. And again, that's something we're very sensitive to, and that's something we feel very responsible as retailers about, because we want to ensure that everyone is able to purchase some level of the core food staples.
All right. Rajiv, I want to thank you very much for giving us a kind of comprehensive panoramic picture of what's happening in the supermarket industry and in the retail business, and explain a little bit about how this is structured and where the consumer fits in the process, and the challenge for supermarkets and the opportunities for consumers as customers. So I want to thank you very much. I'll be happy to have another discussion some weeks from now to see how this is happening, especially around Christmas time, to see what is happening during that period in terms of demand and in terms of what is happening to the cost in terms of the supply chain that brings imports. And as I said before in the other hour, I don't see a way out of this except by producing more of what we consume, consuming more of what we produce, and of producing more to export and sell abroad to more markets so that we can earn foreign exchange and begin the process of investment diversification and market diversification and product and service diversification for exports. That is the only answer, and I hope the government...
If I might make...
Just 1 second. And I hope that the government will take that matter seriously and understand that we've got to do it. We can't keep talking about it. We just have to get it done. Go ahead. You have the last word.
I just want to touch on that last point, and you're so very correct that we need to produce more of what it is that we're consuming. But an interesting observation that I just want to highlight, I was on a call with some of the BSOs, the business sector organizations in the CARICOM region, and they also have some of the same issues. We looked at the major imports. They have the same problem with consumers in their territories. And a big part of the problem is the North American consumption culture, because we have substitutions, we have potential product substitutes within the CARICOM region. But what was the open acknowledgement by several of these BSOs is that we have to work on the consumer perception that the products are inferior, because they still demand the North American products. Because listen, it's a culture that they've been accustomed to for decades now. We openly acknowledge this, and that is our fault, and that is just how the market has become, and that is something that we have to work on. The consumer perception that our products are inferior, that the price points are not better off, and that could be an entirely separate conversation, Dr. Tiwari, one I would be very happy to have with you sometime.
Yeah, but the CARICOM, CARICOM has to market and present its products better. And this is the best time for it to do it, because people are price conscious. And if they manage their business well, they could take advantage of the current market and, manage the taste patterns on the basis of affordability. Because, when it comes down to that, if you can get the same product, reasonable quality for 20 cents less, it makes sense to buy it,
Correct.
All
So
right,
I would like to thank you for having me on the show, Dr. Tiwari. I always enjoy Brighter Morning with Bo, and have a good one, Trinidad and Tobago.
All right, and thank you very much. We'll have you on again, and we'll talk about issues that affect people of Trinidad and Tobago and the region. Thank you very much, Rajiv, Diptee. Viewers, thank you for watching and staying with us during the period. We move now to news, and it's Andrew Chan and the news on MCTV. This is Brighter Morning signing off, and I am Bo Tiwari.